Hello everyone, and thanks for having us. My name is Brian O'Reilly. I'm from Dublin City University, and myself and Tiber Falzett from UCD will present this talk. I'll do the first half and Tiber the second half. We're limited on time, so I'll probably be moving quickly through a lot of information. The slides are probably too text heavy, but apologies. We're here today to talk about this project, Decoding Hidden Heritages. It's a joint project between Ireland and Scotland, or Scotland and Ireland, or the UK and Ireland. It's funded by the AHRC and the IRC under a scheme known as the Collaboration in Digital Humanities. So it's a great scheme that allows the formation of large consortia across UK and Ireland, and funding to carry out large-scale digital humanities projects. So this project it started mid-2021, and it will finish towards the end of next year. And sorry, I should say the project itself is an attempt to digitise a large quantity of folk tales available in archives in Ireland and in Scotland primarily. And so part of the project is these efforts to digitise and to make accessible, and to use modern technologies to do so. So in addition to scanning manuscripts, we're using techniques such as handwritten text recognition, HTR, to make the folk tales in these archives more accessible and therefore researchable. The talk today is entitled Providing Full Text Access to Scottish and Irish Folklore Archives. So I'll just give a quick overview on the actual archives in question. The Folklore Archive here in UCD, and the School of Scottish Studies Archive in Edinburgh, University of Edinburgh. And also I'll talk about the Dúchas project, which I work on as well. And then what Tiber will talk about will be just a sort of a quick overview of our initial preliminary results and some of our sort of avenues of investigation. So in addition to the digitisation and access, we're obviously hoping to analyse this material in various ways. So as I said, the funding allowed us to bring together a large consortium of people. It was very a natural sort of marriage, shall we say, because obviously we have the Gaelic language and the Irish language in Scotland and Ireland. We have the National Folklore Collection in UCD and the School of Scottish Studies Archive in the University of Edinburgh. And then where I came into it is my work on the Dúchas project, and my colleague Una Vanach, who's here and is the PI on that project, and she'll be here tomorrow talking about a related project. So she'll talk more to Dúchas, and it was nice to hear it mentioned in the last talk as well. So, but anyhow, the project brought these partners together. So just a short abstract. In this case study, we demonstrate how we are using innovative digital technologies, namely AI-based handwritten text recognition coupled with community participation via the web, to provide enhanced access to university-based Scottish and Irish folklore archives. So in addition to what was already being done in both Edinburgh and UCD in terms of scanning, we're bringing in AI-based technologies such as HTR, handwritten text recognition, to enhance the access to this material. This hadn't been done as part of the Dúchas project. It was something that was kind of on the horizon, but we didn't have the resources, so this project has allowed us to do that, and that's an example of the manuscripts we're talking about here. This is the actual objectives of the DHH, or the Decoding Hidden Heritages project, as I say, which is built on top of the Dúchas project and the work in Edinburgh. So to fuse deep qualitative analysis with cutting-edge computational methodologies, to provide the most detailed account to date of convergence and divergence in the narrative traditions of Scotland and Ireland, and to digitise and to disseminate. So there's sort of two major goals. One is to make more accessible this material, and also then to analyse the material. So the focus of our work is folk tales. So obviously my knowledge is better on the Irish side. The Dúchas collection contains more than just folk tales. It contains a lot of other material. But we're focusing on in this project on folk tales, and our main goal is to extract as many folk tales out of the two collections as possible, and to digitise them fully in terms of textual transcriptions. And we have sort of two approaches. One is to gather as many folk tales of all varieties or of all types together, and to analyse that using text mining techniques. And in addition to that, we're focusing in on 3 folktale types, ATU types in particular, and they're listed here, so 400, 425 and 503. We had to narrow down our focus into particular tale types, and what we've done is we've gathered all versions of those tales, whereas the wider corpus will not capture everything. We'll cast the net as wide as possible. I can talk. I mightn't have time now, but just in terms of that, how far the scope of the project and our limitations, it's a kind of an interesting challenge on the Irish side in particular. So on the Scottish side, they're effectively digitising the entire tale archive, whereas on the Irish side, we're attempting to find within parts that are already digitised or currently being digitised where we can extract tales from there. But there's a huge amount of material in Ireland that won't be scanned even by the time this project is over. So just for another couple of minutes before I let Tiber in, just a quick reminder. I think most people here, or a lot of people here, are familiar with the National Folklore Collection in UCD. So this project is building upon the material in the National Folklore Collection. My own involvement, as I said, I work on the Dúchas project in DCU, and we have a fantastic collaboration with Críostóir and his team in UCD in the National Folklore Collection. And we're now building upon that with this project, which involves, as I say, more technology, language technology, and so forth, to further drill into the material. And I should say as well that we're about to launch a new version of Dúchas next month, which will include an audio collection and other enhanced features, including, for example, Arna Thompson categorization in main manuscripts collection and so on. I just wanted to mention as well Mehel Dúchas. So this project is it's inspired in a way by the Mehel Dúchas project. So we're really fortunate to have had a really successful crowdsourcing transcription project, the Mehel Dúchas project, where we've transcribed effectively, well, nearly all of the school's collection, where members of the public have done so. And what we wanted to do, we want to continue that project into the main manuscript collection, but it was incumbent upon us to experiment with HTR and technologies, AI technologies, to do so. But we want to find a balance on the main manuscript collection where we use technology, but also allow people to interact with the material themselves. And I'll just quickly. This slide just contains just a quick summary of progress to date, and this summary of progress to date in Ireland is focused in on where we're at in terms of how much material we've transcribed, how well we're doing in terms of accuracy in HTR, and where to next. So we're basically, this summer we hope to have the corpus finalised and transcribed using AI. Parts of it we'll do manually and train models, and then we'll transcribe, then we'll correct, and so on. It's a sort of an iterative process, but I can go into more detail on that if I'm talking to you outside. And then just quickly, that's just a shot from Dúchas. So as I said, you can access these magic tales and other types of folk tales already in the school's collection, and soon in the main manuscripts collection. But what we're working on is the transcriptions of this material. I'll just skip over that. And that's just a kind of a summary again on Dúchas. And just a little bit about the Scottish side of the project. It was just a fantastic consortium to put together, because you have this long-standing connection between the School Scottish Studies Archive at the University of Edinburgh and the National Folklore Collection here. And we hope to shed light on this material in a kind of an international comparative way. And as I said, Tiber will just introduce some of the initial findings now in a second. And yes, I forgot to mention Tiber an Dúchas, which again is a lovely parallel, where you have the Dúchas project, which is a sort of a digitisation project which sits on top of the National Folklore Collection, and you have something similar in Scotland, where you have Tiber an Dúchas, which is lots of audio recordings, many of which come from the School of Scottish Studies Archive. Not so much, there's more manuscript material on the Irish side, more recordings and transcriptions of recordings on the Scottish side, but they work very well together. I should have just mentioned as well the handwritten the handwritten text recognition. HTR is being done using a software technology called Transcribus, and that's just some of the character error rate and word level accuracy we've achieved in Scotland. That's just the Scottish.
So, in the 5 minutes or so that we have left, I was going to take us through some of the preliminary findings that are coming out of the work with the research team. So we have new data coming in, but we've really focused on trying to get the corpus of those three international folktales, ATU 503, ATU 400, and 425 together to ask some questions that I'll go over briefly. But I was thinking about John Miles Foley's work that came out just a few years before he passed on oral tradition and the internet, and just the complexities of looking at the ways in which the potentiality of trajectories can occur. And I think we're seeing a mirroring of that this bringing of materials back into a digital, or for the first time into a digital context, is reiterating the orality of it in many ways because of the complexity of how, when we bring those into algorithmic description, when we try to make sense out of them, it's showing that this might not always be the most comfortable experience, and sometimes the things that we find might be a bit noisy, might have some data that doesn't always fit with what we might have anticipated, and it really has us to go back to the intersubjective nature of the kinds of work we do that was at the heart of the creation of these archives. So we have a corpus of the gifts of the little people, the story of the two hunchbacks, which is, there's a well-known ecotype both in Irish and Scottish Gaelic language that uses a particular day of the week as the right answer and a particular day of the week usually as a wrong one, and then lots of versions that fit somewhere between that ecotype and the other international types. So we were looking at them, we were trying to see, we were putting in, creating a list of characteristics of motifs that we could mark, and the team went through each and transcribed in some cases versions of the tale. We were all assigned a corpus, and we tried to start to see if there's patterns that emerge, and some of them are pretty interesting around. And this one actually shows us, some division there. The English language weekday songs English language versions with Irish language weekday songs share a lot in common with the Irish language versions. So, and they might not share anything with English language versions from the same place. You can see, versions from County Mayo and Roscommon in English meeting very well up with Galway and Donegal ones, whereas Donegal and Galway ones in English don't fit necessarily. So that's one thing that we're seeing. But then when we go into some of the more, bringing all the characteristics together, we're getting these really noisy graphs. And this is being done by our colleague, Professor Jamsheed Tarani at the University of Durham, who takes the characteristics and is able to put them through analytical tools using phylogenetic methods. So when we see in that image there, we're trying to find a tree, but there's not really a tree present. You want to see bubbles that sort of show things, how they relate to one another. And what we have here, because of the type of data set that we're looking at, is more of a shrub than a tree, because we're looking at, in such detail, with such a rich corpus of data, so much material that is related to one another that it's creating complexities and trying to unpack it. This might be from our own approaches to the characteristics and motifs that we're tagging, or it could be also inconsistencies, idiosyncrasies in the tradition. There's another one also showing more of a shrub. This is a neighbor net analysis that Professor Tarani put together. And then, so why is that? And one could be the concept of random variation, that it's a rather simple tale. It's only 2 episodes that mirror one another. So there might not be the same number of cumulative changes that are required to create this kind of distinction. The other one is that we might be looking at aspects of a homogeneous tradition, that motifs are constant and in constant circulation. So what we're seeing here is an oral tradition that is dynamic and functioning in a really rich way. So neither are mutually exclusive propositions. So some of the ways that we're trying to identify this and try to get some of the phylogenetic structures that might be buried underneath the noise of this data is to boost particular motifs that might be more significant. Also maybe introduce some outgroups, some groups from outside the ecotype of Irish and the Irish and Scottish corpus that we're looking at, and then try to discriminate between random variation versus selective borrowing and blending in the tradition. And then the field worker, ethnographer, folklorist in me is always saying, well, we have to also consider the emic performance of these traditions, that, we need to consider what's going on in the tradition in terms of referentiality, ethnopoetics, emic categories. These are all really important because sometimes the categories that we're creating as scholars and as archivists don't mirror that of the tradition. So it's trying to see what's going on there. These are some lovely maps. So we're getting some distribution maps put together by Monica Marion at Indiana University, the doctoral student working on the collection. And I'm just sharing some of those. So the weekday song is same as rest of story in English. So you can see a few of those. And we're at time now. So what I might say is we've also looked at questions of, just to finish up, in ATU 400 and 425, we're looking at concepts of gender. So 400 is a story that is looking at it from a male protagonist's perspective. 425, a female protagonist. So what's going on in terms of questions of transmission is something that we're interested in. And we're starting to see there are some patterns there of who tells these stories, although they aren't maybe as, again, defined as we might have anticipated. So there's, and then from whom they learn them, another interesting aspect. And then the other part that we're looking at as well is opening and closing formula. And in the initial stages of this research, we're seeing that closing formula are a much more frequent feature in these tales than the opening ones. So these are some neat, sort of results that we're seeing in progress as the research moves on. So thank you all for your time. And I'll finish with that.